Welcome to Educated Black Queen. I'm your host, Destiny Harris, and we're taking on a holistic approach to education, health, and wellness. This podcast was created to educate, uplift, and empower young Black women and allies. As I share my own personal growth and development challenges of becoming an educated Black queen, I encourage you to stay updated and connect with us on the blog at www.edublackqueen.com. Happy listening. Go into
Okay.
that.
So my name is Trisha. Do you need my last name too?
Yes, if you'd like to.
Okay. So my name is Trisha Dawkins, and I am a mother of 3. I currently work as a sign language interpreter for the school system in Maryland, and I've been doing that for about 13 years. And I work on the high school level. And I really enjoy it because it puts me into the environment working with young people, and I really have a heart for the youth. And last month, I actually started my own podcast called Conversations with a Random Nobody, and that was kind of a work in progress for maybe, I don't know how many years, because it's been in my head for a while, but I never acted on it. So I don't know what, dropped in me, but I just decided to, just go ahead, bite the bullet and start recording. And it's been about a month, and I've been enjoying it, and I look forward to where it's going to bring me.
Great. Yes, that's really exciting, I think, to just embark on a new project like that. And I wanted to just also kind of get your insights on why you chose to start your podcast during this time of a pandemic, and how that's kind of affected your day-to-day life.
How the pandemic has, or just starting the podcast during this time?
Starting the podcast during the pandemic. I would imagine that it would be a different challenge in and of itself.
Yeah. So being an interpreter, not all interpreters get to work from home, but this being that schools are closed, I do have the opportunity to work from home, which kind of allows me, when the pandemic first started and schools closed, we kind of couldn't figure out how they were going to, work the schooling for the students. So even though I was still working, I wasn't working as much. So that did allow me to have a little extra free time. And, with that free time, I just dibbled and dabbled into my thoughts and try to figure out what I could be doing to utilize the time, because I knew that at some point they were going to figure it out and I was going to have to be, getting back to work. So instead of just sitting around, I contemplated, starting to write a book about life, relationships, or health-wise, focusing on healthy things, and then also writing a book geared towards young people. But I don't know, I just thought that was going to be too much. So I figured with a podcast, you can put out all of that information, and without worrying about publishing and all of that other stuff. Having a podcast allows me to get all of these thoughts and ideas out of my head and into different episodes. So it was free. You don't have to, you have to buy certain equipment, but it's not like it's gonna, empty my pocket. So I spoke about it with a friend of mine, and I decided that this would be the way to go. I contemplated YouTube and doing lives on Instagram as well, but I decided that podcasting, because I love podcasts myself, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Wait, Don't Tell Me is my favorite. But, and I was just like, yeah, this is it. I love podcasts. I would love to be, quote unquote podcaster. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I started writing down ideas. And like I said, I had a little extra free time because of the way my work schedule was set up. And, I got the ideas down and I was like, all right, this is it. So September 15th, I released my first episode, and I've been dropping them every Wednesday ever since.
Yeah, I think that is really great. And from the podcasts that I've heard, all of them sound, very interesting, very captivating. And I think that, as someone who also enjoys just writing for pleasure and also just journalistically, I know that it can be kind of hard to get all those thoughts, especially when there's so many different aspects and topics that you want to cover into like one book. Because like, I don't know about you, but like for me, like in my own personal experience, I've always wanted to write a book, and every time I sit down to write, it's like I come up with all these different crazy ideas, and then it's like the process of like every little word and detail kind of overwhelms me a little bit. So that's kind of why I've kind of gotten into more of a blog style of writing, where I don't have to write as much, and I can do it, at my own pace, and kind of have various different topics that I talk about. But it still allows me, to kind of write creatively and freely and in my own kind of way. So I guess like it's really cool to see like different styles of art come through like different technological platforms, and how that's been able to happen, especially during this time. I think with the more free time, have more liberty to kind of play around with podcasting or vlogging or YouTubing or anything like that. It's pretty exceptional and fascinating, I think, to learn. So I do commend you on doing that and finding that style to work for you. I think it works really well. Yeah. And I remember when you were doing your podcast, because I listened to a few different ones. I think yours was one of the more recent ones that I started listening to. And I remember you started talking about, at one point you were being, you were really stressed out, and you were talking about being a stress eater. And you realized, like, through that process, how to better manage your stress. And I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about, like, ways in which you manage your stress now versus then that are, like, effective for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stress, man. Stress. So it wasn't until recently that I realized that I was a stress eater, because I just thought a stress eater was someone like on TV. You break up with your boyfriend, you sit on the couch in front of the TV with a pint of ice cream. And, I never did anything like that, right? But when I found myself putting on weight, it's like, what is wrong? What's going on? Right. And so it's like I'm eating all of this food and I'm not understanding why. So it came to a point where it would keep happening at certain times. And so when I realized that, it kept happening, I had to sit and really just think and examine myself and say, why are you eating this way? Like, what is going on? And so once I can understand the root of an issue, that's where I can tackle it. I can, confront it and figure out what ways I can go about changing this. Because if it's something that I don't like, then I have to be able to work on it to see a difference. So as far as eating, just being able to ask yourself why you're eating this. Like, what is the reason? You know that, picking an apple over a donut, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because, there are times where I will indulge on certain things, but I should not go to food to comfort my feelings, right? So it's like I have to confront my feelings and address my feelings and deal with those feelings. So if I find myself, ordering Chinese food, then going to get an ice cream cone, then doing this, knowing that I just couldn't button my jeans 5 hours ago, it's like, why would I go out and self-sabotage like that? So I just have to really sit and think about what's going on in my life and confronting that issue. And once I can confront whatever issue is ailing me, then, I don't have to depend on food to make me feel better, because realizing and figuring out this issue or problem that I'm having, that will make me feel better. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. I think kind of going back to the root of the problem, when you're feeling stressed out, it's important to take that time to really step away from food and really think about like what emotions are behind that decision and what's and what's kind of driving that, whether it be, sadness or frustration or just overwhelming, feelings, anxiety, depression, like everything, and everything in between. I think that, food is such a, important part of our, nutrition, but also it can hinder us if we're not, cautious and thinking about what we're putting into our body, like you said, and all things are good in moderation. And then I think that also like certain foods can really kind of help different parts of your body depending on how they're used. So it's really, I think, a fascinating thing, and it goes, I think everyone's affected by that, in different ways. So hearing you talk about that I think has been really helpful. And I think just if I was gonna ask you too, because like for me personally, like my relationship with food has been kind of rocky, and like I think, growing up, I always like had like grown up on like soul food, Southern cooking, like heavier, meals and larger portion sizes. And then as I got older, I started to, recognize like, oh, well, some of this stuff isn't really as healthy as I'd like it to be. And also, in my family, there's a history of diabetes as well, type 2 diabetes. And so for me, it was even more important that I monitor my health, monitor like my sugar levels, like monitor, my cholesterol and everything like that. 'Cause I had a history of high cholesterol as well. So for me, like it was challenging, finding kind of a better way of, eating and also like pairing that with exercises and just and I think and healthy lifestyle just all together.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like I'm 21 now, and I'm still learning how to do that, but I think that I am in more of a mindset of, okay, I will choose that, if I choose that apple today, that doesn't mean that I can't have a donut. It just means, it's like, okay, I'm making this choice for myself. And if I have that donut, I don't have to feel bad about it, but, I just have it in moderation.
Balance.
Yeah, it's about balance.
That's awesome. You are, you're recognizing that at 21, because I had I'm still on a weight loss journey or fitness journey, whatever we're calling it these days. Back in 2012, that's when I started working out and running. My heaviest was like, I'm not even going to say what my heaviest is because then I'll have to say what my current is, and I'm not doing that. So yeah. I'm just going to say in 2012 till now, I lost about 40 to 50 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. And when I started that journey, it was because kind of like what you said. Now, my family is Jamaican, so not a lot of soul food, but, you know, still a good amount of good food, right? And my family, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart failure, things like that. So back in 2012, I was like, you know, even though I wasn't showing any signs of unhealthy lifestyle or anything like that, I was like, I don't want to set myself up for that. So I decided to, you know, get healthier, make healthier food choices, and I cleaned up my diet. I started running, and, you know, I've been on the journey ever since. And along the journey, I watched a couple documentaries on Netflix that introduced me to like a plant-based lifestyle. So I kind of followed that as well. So I think it's awesome that I'm 39 now, so 2012 was 8 years ago. So I guess I started like 31, 32, you know, just learning about food and taking my health seriously. So I think it's awesome that you're doing that now. You definitely have a head start on things. So, you know, just keep going. And like you said, we don't have to feel bad about the food choices that we make, but we just have to be mindful and actually listen to our bodies, because our bodies will really tell us, you don't need that, or I don't want that. You know, you can always tell when you're doing too much. Well, for me, I can always tell because it's just something in me like really, you really going to eat that right now? So it's like, you know, you have to listen to that inner voice sometimes. But yeah, kudos to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, it's important. I think at any age, you know, I think it's an ongoing process. So to be able to learn, you know, about your health and I think it's very interesting because it kind of is individual to everyone's lifestyle and cultural and religious beliefs as well. So it's just important to respect those decisions and be conscientious of those decisions that you're making along the way. Yeah. So yeah, and then I really wanted to also ask, because I know you talked about on your podcast as well, like about shame and vulnerability, because I thought that was one of the more like fascinating podcasts for myself, because I was really excited when you started talking about that. Because as I had mentioned before, I had listened to Brene Brown's The Power of Vulnerability book. So that was, I thought, really great the way that you kind of tackled that topic. And I thought if you could like touch on a little bit more about kind of the different ways that you have kind of been vulnerable in your own life and what advice you would lend to others who maybe have a harder time, struggle with vulnerability, because I know that was one of my issues as well, was learning to be more vulnerable and also learning kind of just, you know, it kind of ties back to what we were talking about with food, you know, having that shame or guilt and kind of how to let go of that.
Yeah, I love Brene Brown. I actually was introduced to her. I saw her on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday and just fell in love with her because of what she was talking about: shame, vulnerability, and just voicing it, right? So my advice to people would be, you know, don't of course, don't be ashamed of anything that you've been through, anything that you're going through, because there's always someone out there who can relate to that or who can learn from that. So whatever your experience is, someone is out there that can help you, or there's someone out there that needs your help and, needs to hear your story. Because really, whatever situations that are happening in our lives, it's like we're not the only ones that are going through that. But because we are, as a people, we are so ashamed to share that story with anyone, we'll never know that, oh, my coworker is experiencing the same thing, right? Or my neighbor is having that same problem. So if we can just open up and just share our stories with one another, I think that will just benefit us tremendously, because as people, as human beings, we are all so much alike. I think we are more alike than we are different. But because we want to come off as, oh, I'm this type of way and I'm not that type of way, or, I have all of this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all of that stuff really doesn't matter. So I would just, suggest to people, find others who you can trust with your shame story, with, things that you want to be vulnerable with. Find people that, believe in you and will encourage you, but not sympathize with you, right? Because we don't want people to pity us, and we don't want that, feeling sorry for me, right? If I'm telling you, this is how I feel, I'm ashamed of this, then what I need in return is, okay, well, you made that decision, but it's not the end of the world. Let's keep it moving, right? Instead of someone saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did that. What were you thinking? How are you going to, I don't need, that's not what we need. So it's important to find others whom, will just empathize with you and not sympathize with you. I think that's so important, because shame and vulnerability, I forget what she says, but it can't exist in the real world. Like, once you say it out of your mouth, it's no longer bothering you in your head. It's no longer going back and forth. You did that. Oh my God, I can't believe you should be ashamed. Once you say it out your mouth, it's out there. And you free yourself from that, and it's gone. Like, it's over. You did it, whatever, so it's very important that you let it out and not hold it inside, because it's so much more detrimental just keeping it in.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that a lot of people struggle with feeling like, they're alone and the only ones going through it, and don't even realize how many others may have experienced the same or something similar to them. And I think also, we have a hard time of, we live in this society that everyone is kind of, it's more of an individualistic approach to things, because everyone is doing their own thing. And so we feel as though we're more isolated, even though we're in an age where we can connect with anyone at any point in time, which is the ironic part of it, and kind of the sad part about it, because I think that, like you said, we are more alike than different. And especially, at this time where there are a lot of differences, people try to perpetuate, a lot of hatred. And it's really crazy how, alike we are, and how much power we give that vulnerability, and we think we a lot of times look at it as weakness, but really it is one of our greatest strengths, to be able to open up to one another, and see other perspectives as well. And I think that you really touched on some really great points. And I think also that with I guess with my generation too, I feel like if we were more attentive towards one another and kind of, if we didn't worry so much about, the social media aspect. I think so many times we look at that and we measure ourselves to impossible perfectionist standards, and it's like it's not realistic and it's not attainable really for anyone, even the people that try to make it look attainable. It's like they're and so it's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to step back and really reflect on what's most important and what issues you have going on deep down, and really relinquish that power of feeling bad or feeling guilty or ashamed about it, and really just allow yourself to be, like you said, vulnerable in that moment, and be present in the moment, so that's, I think that's great that you talked about that in your podcast. And I really love what you say when you first start. I think it's when you say it at the beginning and also at the end of your podcast, when you say like hello, and you would do it I think in a Jamaican Fatwa. Yeah. Fatwa.
Greetings, my sis.
Yes, I love that you say that, and you kind of introduce everyone to yourself, make it more personable. And that's, I think a great message to send as well, because I learned something new when you say that as well. So listening to that is really great, and listening to just, some of the insights that you've given with your experiences, as, even as an educator, I was wanting to also ask you, like, what kind of challenges you faced as an educator, especially like now, I think with learning virtually, how that's been.
Well, interpreting in the school system, I would say virtually, it's been okay for the most part. The only challenge that I would say we have, not only as interpreters, but the teachers as well, is that in my school system, it's not required for the students to have their cameras on. So as an interpreter...
that's amazing. Yeah, I think that, approach to life in general, like you said, it's like speak it into existence. You have to really believe in that, and it's amazing what can happen, in such a short amount of time, like you said, when that process starts in your mind and you allow it to go outward and propel you forward. So well, thank you so much for sharing, and I really appreciated all your insights and advice tonight, and I do wish you the best of luck with everything, and I will definitely be looking forward to hearing those episodes that are coming. I'm excited to listen to them as well.
Thank you so much, Destiny. You were amazing, and I appreciate you for actually wanting to have this conversation with me. A random nobody. Like, I'm just kidding. But no, you are amazing yourself, and I wish you the best of luck. Everything that you set your mind to, just know that you can accomplish it. Don't let anything hold you back. You are on your way. You have a vision. You have...
Thank you for joining us on the Educated Black Queen podcast. Be sure to visit my website at www.edublackqueen.com and follow me on Instagram at edu_CATED Black Queen. Subscribe to this podcast now so you never miss a show.